Good morning. All right, we're just gonna wait a couple of minutes for some of the kids to come in. Good morning, Christopher. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Or good afternoon now, excuse me. 12 o'clock. All right, so as we're waiting for a couple of people to come in, I just want to remind you guys that I'm going to show you an overview for what I want you guys to do today. Um, and then afterwards, when I'm done showing you what I want you guys to do today, you can ask me any questions that you need to ask me, okay? But again, we're just gonna do a little overview of what I want you guys to work on today. And if you have any questions after, you can go ahead on and ask me those questions. Really quickly, everything that you're going to be working on is going to be through Pearson. So I've already put up your assignments that I want you guys to complete today. I don't have the assignments for the entire week. I'm going to be putting up those assignments day by day, and whatever assignments you see for that day, that is what I want you guys to complete for that day. So today, you're going to have 3 assignments, and we are actually starting a new unit. So this is, but it's still something that we've covered in class. So even though it's a new unit, and even though we are looking at new stories, it's still something that we've practiced in class, okay? So Jennifer, I know you're just coming in. Just really quick, I told everybody that today we're gonna do an overview for what I want you guys to work on for today. You have 3 assignments that you're gonna be working on Pearson. For the following week, for the remainder of the week, every assignment that you complete is not going to be in your book. It's going to be on the Pearson website. So if you also notice, some of you, if you've already logged into Pearson, you notice that I have uploaded your scores. So if there is an assignment that you have not completed on Pearson, and you didn't start on it during the weekend, I need you to go back and complete those assignments that you did not do through Pearson. Okay, Josh, you have a question?
Miss Roach,
Yes, sweetheart.
how, how, how many, do we have any assignments for social studies?
No.
Okay.
Okay, Jocelyn. I see it's still connecting to your audio. So ask me the question in just a few moments. But again, you have 3 assignments you're going to be doing today, and those 3 assignments are on Pearson. Okay, so we're starting a new unit. Our theme for this week is going to, well, actually for the next couple of weeks is going to be diversity. So that is our main focus, is diversity. What is diversity? How can you recognize diversity? And can you give me an example of diversity? Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen with you guys now. And I'm going to be showing you a quick video over what our theme is and what we're going to be focusing on. And then I'm also going to be showing you guys your assignments on Pearson. And again, if you still have not completed assignments from last week on Pearson, I'm extending that and I'm giving you an opportunity to work on that. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen 1 second. All right. So if you go to Pearson, you will notice you have 3 assignments under due date, and it will show the 13th. That is letting you know that is when, not when just your assignments are starting, but that is when your assignments are due. So these are the 3 assignments that you must complete today. Okay? So the one assignment is the genre. So this is the genre we're going to be focusing on for the next few weeks, realistic fiction. Now, this is a genre that we have definitely covered in the classroom before. So this is nothing new to us, but we are definitely going to review over realistic fiction. So you're going to be focusing on the genre. You're going to be watching our Unit 3 video, and you're going to be doing the weekly launch infographic. So when you go to Pearson today, you will see these 3 assignments, and you will also see the due date, April 13, April 13, April 13. Okay? So let's go ahead on. We're going to start off with our Unit 3 video. So when you go inside, you will see that video. So let me get to that 1 second. So question, how can we reach new understandings through exploring diversity? So how are we able to understand more things by looking at diversity and learning more about diversity? That is what our essential question is asking us. So we're gonna look at this short video, and in this video, they're gonna be describing diversity to us, and they're going to show us some examples of diversity. Okay. Christopher, can you please put your video on mute, please? Thank you. And Delima.
How can we reach new understandings through exploring diversity?
Diversity exists when there is a variety of things together in one place. Like the forest, there is a diverse mix of animals and plants in most forests. Diversity also applies to people. People come from different places and may have grown up in different cultures. People may wear different clothes, have different hobbies, and enjoy different foods. Diversity allows us to share in the experiences of others and gives us an opportunity to see the perspective of others. By sharing what we know and listening to the ideas of others, we are able to better understand the world around us. How would you define diversity?
All right, so in that video, they were describing to us diversity. They were saying, giving us an example of how if you were to look in a forest, there would be many different animals. So if you notice in that forest, we don't all see the same exact animal. You see all different types. So that's an example of diversity. The word diversity is a synonym for, or it could be, you can think of it as a synonym for difference, okay? And they also talked about how people can be diverse. And they explained to us how we come from all different backgrounds, okay? Different cultures. So some of us might have a culture where our family might be from Mexico. Some of us have a culture where our family might be from El Salvador. Some of us have a culture where our family might be from Ethiopia, Eritrea, all different places, right? So those are examples of diversity. You will notice that if you compare these different cultures, they might eat different types of foods or listen to different types of music, okay? So when you go to Pearson after watching that video, they're gonna ask you, what do you think the term diversity means? So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys again, and I'm gonna show you where you're gonna answer that question through Pearson. Okay. I see it, Delina. Thank you, ma'am. All right, so let me share my screen. So after you watch that video, notice it has the turn and talk, and underneath turn and talk, it says, how would you define diversity? So notice you have a notebook tab right here. If I click on there, it will give me a blank paragraph box, and you're gonna answer that question in your own words and explain to me, how would you define diversity? So Christopher, could you give me an example in your own words of how you would describe diversity? Think about it, Caduce. Y'all are always the ones that want to talk and tell me all the answers in class, and now y'all don't want to say nothing. That's fine. I'm just playing with you guys. All right, so in here I could type, I think diversity means, and then you would put your answer. So if you're still unsure about diversity, what could you, or what tool could you use to understand that word better? Anybody? What tool could you use if you don't understand the meaning of a word? What tool could you use to find the meaning of the word? Delina?
Context clues.
Context clues. What else could you use? What if you didn't have context clues? What type of book could you use?
Dictionary.
The dictionary. Thank you, Christopher. Could you use the internet? Could you use Google?
Yes.
Yes, you could. So if you're unsure about the meaning of a word, you have different resources that you can use to understand that word. Okay? So after you watch your video, you're going to tell me in your own words, what do you think diversity means? Okay? And you can use your resources to do that. All right? Now let's get out of here. So then after we look at diversity, well, excuse me, after we look at the video, we're going to explore it a little bit deeper. And you are going to see weekly launch infographic. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So remember, our theme is diversity. So here in our infographic, they're giving us an example of the diverse ways we communicate. So one way that we typically communicate with each other is we talk, right? We use our words, we use our voices, we communicate. I see Delina showing up some sign language letters. So here they're giving us diverse ways we communicate, or different ways we communicate. So notice the first way of communication, or an example, is sign language. Now, when you click on this page and you don't, or if you're unsure about what are some of the words they're saying and you need help pronouncing these words, notice this tab at the top, this little button with the play. If I click on there, it reads it to me. So if there's a word that you're unsure of pronouncing, you can definitely click on this tab and it would play it for you. So I'm going to do that for us.
Diverse ways we communicate. Sign language. People who are deaf or hard of hearing use sign language to communicate. Motions of the hands stand for words, phrases, or ideas. There are over 250 different sign languages in the world.
Okay, so again, if there's a word that you don't understand, click that play button and they will say it for you guys. So sign language is a way people who communicate, people who are deaf, meaning people who are not able to hear. So those who are not able to hear, they use sign language as a way to communicate. But there are other different types of ways of communicating that we may not be aware of. So we're going to look into that a little bit deeper. So here we have two other ways people would communicate back in the day. The first way is through a carrier pigeon. Did you know that people used to attach messages to these pigeons to send off for someone else to read what they wrote? So here it says carrier pigeons can find their way home over long distances. They were used during both world wars. So back when World War I and World War II were happening, they would use these birds to send messages to different places. So it tells us that a soldier wrote a message and inserted it into a tube attached to a pigeon's leg or body. Because the enemy could intercept radio transmissions, pigeons offered another way to deliver messages. So they're just saying that if you tried to communicate through the radio, they were able to actually hear what you were trying to communicate. So if you didn't want the enemy to know what you were trying to communicate with someone else, you would use a carrier pigeon to send that message to wherever it is you needed them to go. Another form of communication were smoke signals. Smoke signals are among the oldest means of communication. The ancient Chinese, Greeks, Native Americans, and others used them to send messages over long distances. Torches or piles of vegetation were placed on high ground and set on fire. The smoke from the fires could be seen from far away. So, another diverse way to communicate, smoke signals. Then we have something that we might be a little familiar with, which is Braille. So just like people who are unable to hear, they use sign language to communicate. Well, with people who are unable to see, they use what is called Braille. Now, Braille is named after Louis Braille. And he became blind when he was very, very young, when he was 11 years old. He decided to create a way for blind people to communicate with each other. Here is an 11-year-old boy who decided to create a way for blind people to communicate. I think that is amazing. 11-year-old communicating through Braille, or excuse me, he is the person who created it. It says he then modified night writing, an alphabet system of raised bumps that Charles Barbier had created in the 1800s. So if ever you go somewhere, you might have noticed that under words, there were these little raised bumps. And I know some of you have felt those because we actually had those at our school. And each of these raised bumps represent a letter. So when somebody who is blind and who has been taught Braille, when they run their fingers across these bubbles, they are able to read and it tells them where they are, okay? So that is Braille, another form of communication. And then we have cell phones. Now this is something we're really familiar with. A lot of us use cell phones all the time to text our friends, text our family, but this is another form of communication, okay? Then we have something that we're not too familiar with, but this is known as the speech generating device. It says people who are unable to speak or write might use a speech generating device, okay? These devices allow people to communicate with text or synthesize speech by using a touch keypad or joystick or by tracking a person's eye movements. Stephen Hawking is a famous scientist who has written books and given lectures using an SGD, speech generating device. So if you have time today and you want to learn a little bit more about Stephen Hawking, you can go ahead on and you can actually find a video of him using this device and showing how he used this device to communicate because he was unable to speak. So if you don't use sign language, there are also other ways of communication, okay? So these are all different ways to communicate, diverse ways, all right? Now, if you notice to the right of your screen, it has weekly question. And the question says, why do people communicate in diverse ways? Think about that. Why do some people use sign language? Why do some people use Braille? Okay? There are reasons why people use different forms of communication. So if you look under that question, our quick write, this is your assignment. This is assignment number 2. What are some different ways you communicate? If you notice, there's our notebook. Once again, you will click the notebook and you will answer that question. This is an open-ended question, meaning there's no right or wrong answer. You just have to tell me what are some different ways you personally communicate with other people. For example, for me, I could type, I communicate.
Miss Wade.
1 second, sweetie. I communicate with my phone through text messaging. I also communicate by calling my friends on the phone. So those are 2 different ways I can communicate. Yes, they're both using the phone, but I'm using the phone in 2 different ways. So all you have to do is tell me at least 2 different ways you communicate with other people. Okay? I'm gonna stop sharing. Christopher, you had a question.
Why is it not working for me? Like every time, like every 5 minutes that is passed, that like you're freezing.
If I'm freezing, don't worry, this is being recorded, okay? So you can definitely go back. I'm gonna put this video back into Remind or send it to the people who are not on Remind, and you can go back and look at the video. Okay.
Okay.
Do you have a question besides that though, about what I was talking about?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna put you back on mute. All right, so those are the 2 assignments you're gonna be doing today. So you're gonna watch the video and answer the question in your notebook. And then you're going to go to the diverse ways of communicate and you're gonna put your answer in the notebook. And then we're gonna look at the last assignment for today. So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys again. So you've done your weekly launch infographic. Then we have genre, realistic fiction. So this is the genre we're gonna be focusing on. And this is something we are all very familiar with, okay? So I'm gonna click on that. And if you look, what pops up? A definition of realistic fiction and the elements that we're going to be focusing on in realistic fiction for the week. So what is a realistic fiction? Caduce, can you read that for me, please?
Realistic fiction is a made-up story that could really happen. This type of fiction contains the same literary elements as other fictional texts. It includes setting or the time and place a story occurs, characters or the people and animals involved, plot or the series of events, theme or message.
Very good, sir. Thank you. So Caduce just gave us the definition of a realistic fiction. He says it's a made-up story that could really happen. So if you remember in class, we read 2 realistic fictions. The first one was Lemonade War, and then the second one was No Talking. Now, if we remember, let's go focus on Lemonade War. We had 2 characters in that story, and those 2 characters were children who could actually be real. Now, one thing we have to remember about realistic fiction, even though it's a made-up story and the author made it up, it is still considered fiction. We know it's fiction, but it is also realistic, meaning it could have happened in real life. Even though it didn't happen in real life, it could happen. So even though Jessie and her brother didn't really have a lemonade war, it is still something that could have possibly happened, okay? So when we're looking at realistic fiction, we're gonna be focusing on the setting. Are you gonna be able to recognize the setting in the story? We're gonna be focusing on the characters. Who are the characters in our realistic fiction? We're gonna be focusing on the plot, meaning the events that are happening in the story. And we're gonna be focusing on the theme. Now, this is something new for us, the theme of a story. When we talk about theme, we're talking about what is the message in the story. Out of all of the events that have taken place and the topics we focus on, what is the message the author is trying to teach us? Okay? So if I think about Lemonade War, and I think about all the events that took place between Jessie and her brother, and I'm trying to figure out what is the theme of that story. Now, you cannot find the theme actually in the story. You have to use the clues and the events that happen to figure it out. So what was the message the author was trying to teach us, the reader, in Lemonade War? Well, one message I know that they were trying to teach us is how brothers and sisters, at the end of the day, they need each other. So remember, Jessie and her brother were going through a whole war back and forth. Oh, I'm going to beat you at this. I'm going to make more money than you. No, I'm going to make more money than you. But at the end of the day, they realized that all of that was silly for them. Okay? They're going to realize that all of that was silly for them and that they should not have gone through that fight at all. Okay? So just think about that with theme. So notice as we continue down the screen, there's our notebook again. That is where you're going to put your answer. So anytime you are given an assignment, I want you to look for your blue notebook. Okay?
Miss,
Ashlyn, I'm going to keep you on mute until I'm finished speaking. Okay, so look at this anchor chart. This is showing us the author's purpose, and it is showing us the elements.
Hello.
Okay? So we have the purpose. Why are realistic fictions even written? A lot of times they have realistic fictions created to entertain us and to also tell us a story. But the main thing, realistic fictions are mostly to entertain us as readers. And again, our elements: setting, when and where the story takes place, the characters, who are they in the story, the plot, what is actually happening in the story, and the theme, the message about an important topic. Okay? So what exactly are you going to write in your notebook? Well, here on a Turn and Talk, it says, describe a character from a favorite story to a partner. So this could be anybody in your home. You're going to think about that character, and you can use the characters from No Talking, or you can use the characters from Lemonade War, or if you have another realistic fiction you want to use, you can do that as well. Okay? So in your notebook, you're going to describe that character to me. So you can talk about, you can describe their appearance, or you can describe how they were as a person. So that goes into external and internal, but we're gonna get into that a little bit later. The only thing I want you to do is to describe that character to me. Okay? So this is your third and final assignment for today. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna open up the floor for any questions that you might have. Ashlyn? You have a question?
yes. When can we go get our calendar?
You can go get it today.
Okay.
All right. Christopher, you had a question?
Yeah. Which characters were you talking about?
So this can be any realistic fiction that you've ever read. So that's why I'm saying you can use Lemonade War if you want to, or you can use a other realistic fiction that you've read before. So I know some of you read some of the books in the library in the classroom, right? I know one of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yes.
Okay, so that's like a realistic fiction. You can talk about the character in there and describe that character to me. So it's whatever realistic fiction that you've read. But remember, a realistic fiction is a story that is made up, but it could really happen in real life. Okay?
So,
Yes, Caduce.
do you get the results from Success Maker if we just stop it and enter Zoom?
So wherever you stop, they'll give me where you are, the progress. So yes.
So do we get a grade on that, or when we're done, do we continue?
So when you're done, you continue. I usually, when you do Success Maker, I look at your highest grade. Okay. So if you, let's say you were doing Success Maker and you made a low grade. If you want to try to show a higher grade, you would do it again, and I take the highest grade from that. Okay. That's why I was saying I recommend you do it daily, because one day you might not do so well, right? But if you do it again and it'll be higher, then that's the grade I take. Okay. Delina, you had a question?
Do we have daily quick checks for reading?
Yes, so those assignments that I gave you, are your daily quick checks. Basically, like how math with Mr. Nostrosa does the quick checks daily, that is what I'm doing.
Okay.
So the 3 assignments that you're doing today shows me that you've logged in, and it shows me that you've attempted that assignment and you've actually typed out your answers, because I'm looking for your answers in the type box, okay?
Okay.
So that is what I want you to focus on today. Yes, Christopher.
Did we have homework package to do we have homework
Yes, so-
package this week?
Yes, so the packets were made today. After you get off with me, you can go and pick them up today. But basically, the packets are your schedule. So I'm also going to put the schedule into a remind. So if you cannot go and pick up your packets today, I will post the assignment your weekly planner. I'm going to post that in remind today for you to look at. All right. So if you don't have time today, that's okay. I'm going to post it in the group so that you can take a look at what you're supposed to do. So the 3 assignments that I just showed you, you're going to see that on your weekly planner that I'm going to send to you. You're going to see that on Pearson too. Any questions so far?
No.
All right. Last thing I want to go over with you guys is our group reading. So we're going to have independent reading for the next 2 weeks. And this reading, or the book that we're going to be reading, is realistic fiction. And the title of the book is Rickshaw Girl. So I've assigned page numbers for you all to read independently.
Today?
Yes, so I'm going to show you the book, and I'm going to post it on Pearson for you. So I'm going to share my screen again. And this is the last thing we're going to go over for today. So if you look here, it says Unit 3 Trade Book, Rickshaw Girl. This is the realistic fiction that you're going to be reading independently.
What, Miss, what about the one on the My View?
Yes, so that's what we're going to be reading together. But this one you're going to be reading independently. Yes.
So in every meeting we're gonna be working in the
My
movie book.
View. Yes. So in our meetings, we're going to be working on the My View, and with Rickshaw Girl, you're going to be reading this independently. Okay, so if you look, here's your cover page. If you click here and press next, it opens to the book. Okay, this is just the inside cover. And here is chapter 1. Okay, page 7.
Is this a chapter book?
Yes, it is, Caduce. It is a chapter book. So
When do we have to finish?
You have 2 weeks.
Oh,
How many chapters does it have?
I believe 7, but it's a total of 70 pages.
That's little.
It is little, thank you. But you have 2 weeks to read this. If you want to read it, most of it in a day, that's your choice. If you want to read, I have the page numbers already set out for you. So for today, I would recommend reading pages, the first 8 pages. Like 8 pages a day.
Okay.
Okay, so we can break it up. We can break it up or break it into piece by piece. Okay, so you don't have to read a whole chapter, but you can read 8 pages a day.
Okay.
They're not long pages. See? And then this page, it just is mostly a picture, right? Yeah.
But the other side has a lot of words.
You've read more than that.
No?
Okay, Delina, you had a question?
How many chapter books are there in the My View book?
This is gonna be outside of my view.
This is in my view.
It's in, well, excuse me, it's not in the My View book. It's online.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is actually online that I'm gonna post for you guys.
Is the whole book?
Yes.
So there's not one chapter each day online?
So no, the whole book is online. It's not one chapter each day. So that's why I said you can go and click through it day by day. So this is 2 pages. This is 2 pages. All right.
Okay.
So yeah, so the whole book is online. You don't have to look in your book for it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's do a quick overview just to make sure we know what we're doing. So you're gonna watch your video, then you're gonna do your infographic and your genre realistic fiction for today.
Okay.
Any questions? All right, let me stop sharing. If you guys don't have any questions for me now, but might have questions for me later, just contact me. But that is all I'm going to be covering for today in our meeting. So as soon as we get off, you can go head on to Pearson and you'll see those 3 assignments already set up for you guys. And if you have not done your previous assignments, or if there are still some assignments you have in progress that you have not completed, I have left those up there for you to complete, because if you do not complete them, I'm going to have to put 0 there, and I don't want to do that.
How much time do we have to complete them?
I'm going to keep them up this whole week.
Okay.
Okay, so you have a whole
What if we don't
nother week.
finish them this week, but we start them next week?
No, this is your last week, because they've been up for 3 weeks.
Okay.
Okay? Ashley.
Miss Welch,
Yes.
so if we don't have your phone number, and my question was that can we still pick up our homework though? The calendar at school?
Yes, you can go and pick that up. I'm also going to post it in our Remind app for you to look at. So if you don't have time to go and pick it up today, you can just look at the file that I send you.
The Remind app doesn't have me.
Okay, and Delina, I'll send it to you. Go ahead, Ashley.
And also, are you gonna do small groups like Mr. Nestrosa is doing?
Yes, so Ms. Yarbo and Ms. Perez are going to be helping us with small groups, and you're going to be meeting with them on, Yarbo, you want to chime in and explain that to them?
Hi, everyone. So yes, Wednesday we will meet for small groups. I'll discuss with Miss Welch the exact time. We'll probably do 12 to 1 again, like we did today. But again, I'll discuss that with Miss Welch and we'll get that information to you all.
Okay, so on Wednesday, you're going to be meeting with Ms. Yarbo.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
we're going to be discussing the time, and when we
Is it for reading or math?
this is for reading. So you'll probably meet with her first and then math after. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So be ready for your Zoom meeting with Ms. Yarbo on Wednesday. And I'll send that information out to you guys.
Okay.
Okay. If y'all have any questions after this, just get me on Remind, and I will talk to you guys later.
Okay.
Okay, y'all have a good evening, all right?
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye as well.
Bye, see y'all later.
Bye, everyone.